Okay, welcome back to members of 121 Community Church in Grapevine, Texas, and our ongoing study in Hegel and the Spirit by Olson. We're going to take a look at pages 14 to 36 on Hegel's doctrine of pneumatology. Remember the introduction. Olson tells us that, and he is a very good Hegel scholar, by the way, but Olson tells us that Hegel wrote a pneumatology as a hermeneutic. And now we're going to get into more detail about that. And because he takes this approach, Olson interprets Hegel as a theologian. Now, obviously, Hegel held the chair of philosophy at the University of Berlin in the 19th century, but he was a believer. He was a Christian. And even though he held the chair of philosophy, he began his academic career as a student at the Tübingen Seminary. So he first attended the Tübingen Seminary and then later switched to philosophy, but then became famous when he wrote his Phenomenology. But now we're going to take a look at this chapter on Hegel's pneumatology, and we will be looking at him through the filter that Olson has, and that is to view Hegel primarily as a theologian rather than a philosopher. Hegel is a theologian. All philosophy is theology. All genuine philosophy is theology to Hegel. Let's go to block one and get started and take a look at the logic of subjective and objective spirit. The notion of spirit considered historically. Lutheran position emphasized the objective side of grace. The Catholic pietists, they emphasize the subjective cooperation of the believer in attaining unto the merits of Christ. Both represented views concerning soteriology. Orthodox Lutherans did not emphasize subjective cooperation. Instead, the objectivity of the Word and the sacrament became central for Orthodox Protestant belief. Orthodox soteriology said that the Spirit works upon the heart through the objective Word and the objective sacrament. Objective Word and objective sacrament. The outward part must precede the inward conversion. But the Catholic pietist emphasized the believer and how the believer believes. So it was an emphasis on the believing subject. Confirmation of the Spirit. Catholic pietism said the spiritual character is demonstrated through the confirmation of the Spirit. The believer would reach confirmation of the Spirit. Hegel sought to overcome this dichotomy between Orthodox subjectivity and Catholic subjectivity and Orthodox objectivity. And he did that through his doctrine of absolute idealism. He looked at Fichte's subjectivism, Schelling's objectivism, and he looked at Immanuel Kant. For Hegel, the Spirit is the all-encompassing ground of reason as ousia substance, as ousia essence, revealed in the life of the concept, eidos, or the life of the collection of interrelated concepts. Hegel addressed the ontological structure of being and the existential identity of genuine human life as aspects of the spirit. For Hegel, the spirit addressed the structure of being, ontology. The sacred and the profane realms did interpenetrate each other for Hegel. The self seeks to make sense of the noumenal realm, the universal realm, not just the phenomenal, but the noumenal, universal realm, enlisting the concepts like namas, law, logos, logic, rhema, voice. And all is enclosed within the one ousia Trinitarian substance. That's key. All is enclosed within God. And that is called panentheism, all in God. Not pantheism, but panentheism. All creation is in God. God is the I am. There's no life outside of God. All is in God, the one Trinitarian ousia essence, the one Trinitarian ousia substance. Very important that we understand that position from Hegel. And Hegel borrowed that from Spinoza. Hegel believed that you had to begin with that axiom from Spinoza in all theology, in all philosophy. So it's a very key statement there at the bottom of 1. Let's move on to block 2 and take a look at essence. And essence becomes spirit as the ground of reason. Spiritual reasoning, by the way, not secular reasoning, but spiritual reasoning, where we acquire the eidos ideas of the kingdom. Okay, block 2. The ground of reason. Dialectic has an in-itself nature that is transcendental, made manifest in the realm of positing, which for Hegel is the realm of spirit, where all is made manifest through grace and grace alone. 2. The in-itself of spiritual reason, noesis, goes out of itself as sunaidese, self-consciousness. All within the realm of positing, or the realm of spirit. Spirit is equal to for Hegel, spirit is equal to the implicit process of the dialectic. Remember, we've discussed it before. Just go back to the summary lesson on the phenomenology if you need a refresher, but spirit for Hegel is the implicit process of the dialectic itself, which is a unifying process that unites objectivity and subjectivity. So how did Hegel unite the subjective position and the objective position of soteriology? He did it by his doctrine of the realm of positing. And I've said this to many, many people who are trying to understand Hegel. The key to understanding Hegel, you have to understand his doctrine of the realm of positing. What is that? What is the realm of positing? And for Hegel, if you don't know that, then you'll never get him. You'll never really comprehend what Hegel's doing. But if you do finally get to where you can understand this realm of positing, everything will fit together. It'll all make sense. Hegel is accessible, but you have to really approach him very, very slowly, very deliberately. Okay. Block 2, Note 3. Spirit is the implicit process of unifying the subjective and the objective. The ousia essence is the noumena substance. Eidos ideas make up the dialectical language of spiritual being as a critical idealism of spiritual self-consciousness. And we form an interrelated sign model that reflects the transcendental reality of the structure of being, the structure of existence. That's what we do when we form a sign model. And we've done this in our church. I mean, Ross has shown us his sign model worldview, and it's critical to learn that. Hegel says that's what we do. As believers, we form a sign model worldview that we want to posit or put forth in the world in an attempt to convince others to recognize our sign model worldview, Weltanschauung in German, to recognize it as the true. So we're looking for the positing of our worldview and the return of recognition. The realm of positing is all about the positing of our believing worldview and trying to convince others to take up our sign model worldview, which they will then respond with recognition. So it's positing of our sign model and return of recognition. That's what the realm of positing is. Positing and return, positing and return. That's the definition of dialectic. It's that two sides of positing and return. Positing and return. And then for Hegel, his speculative Good Friday becomes true to its concept as the negation of the negative. For Hegel, the cross, Christ, in the cross, Christ represents all of the negative that humanity has taken up into themselves. Christ takes on our sin. Christ takes on our alienation. Christ takes on our lost sense of being. The resurrection overcomes the cross and negates all of that negative. And Hegel called that the speculative Good Friday as the negation of the negative. In German, that was Aufheben or Aufheben, negation of the negative. That's the central method of the Spirit for Hegel. The Spirit is always in the process of negation of the negative. Aufheben, negation of the negative. It is the process of becoming. It is the process of spiritual becoming. Now we're ready to move on to Block 3. Okay, I love what Olson did here in Block 3. He gave us a very good analysis in the end. Okay. The empowering logic. Well, let's read the title to 3. Our subjective eidos ideas as a sign model must become real as the objective reality. The empowering logic is that attempt to actualize our ideas in the community. In this way, the subjective rational is real and the objective real is rational. We have transcended empty sensate reflection. 3.2. The going out of the self as positing. Our formal subjective truth as a sign model only becomes real through the return of recognition, which is equated with also, as a theologian, the return of sanctification. The self is raised to absolute knowing. The self is raised to absolute knowing. Now we go to 3.3, the return for the self of the recognition and sanctification. All right. We participate in the positing and return of a new metaphysical cognition within what the Apostle Paul called the realm of the principalities and the powers. Positing and return, it becomes the two sides of the verb faith, pisteuo. Faith becomes the work of Hegel's speculative pneumatology. Faith becomes the work of Hegel's speculative pneumatology. Very, very powerful chapter 2, 14 to 36, on Hegel's doctrine of pneumatology.